It's January 7th, and I don't have my voice because I got food poisoning. So you're just going to have to look over me.
And the fair third still out.
She's not well.
Plague is sweeping through the channel.
At least mine's not contagious.
So she's fine. She just probably still viral shedding. So
we're still going to try to have done the live news, but if we still haven't done the live recap, it's going to be like any second now.
By the time they see this, it'll be Tuesday. So
oh yeah, it's very likely, like 80% chance. So if you missed it, YouTube didn't notify you because live stream stuff. We got government and security news. There was kind of a lot over the break, really.
Well, we're back into it, right? It's back to the grind, back to the normal output of stories. And here's one that is probably not the greatest news. This was kind of like just slip it in at the end,
yeah,
but it didn't work.
U.S. Appeals Court blocks the Biden administration effort to restore net neutrality rules. The Reuters had, again, net neutrality. And like no matter which side of the fence you're on in net neutrality, if we can't agree on like what net neutrality is or like what it's meant to accomplish or what the federal communications role is, or the federal communications role can play games with itself to say, oh, this is in our purview. Oh, this is not in our purview. Something has gone catastrophically wrong in our society, and we need to just jettison all of that and start again.
Well, the question is, are the Fs going to have the same teeth that they've had in the last year or two in the coming administration? Seems like the dice are pointing to no, or not the dice, the oracle.
The magic 8-ball.
Yeah, but once again, maybe one last effort, one last strike. They've already been after Microsoft, but now they found something else to be angry about.
Microsoft faces new FTC scrutiny over alleged antitrust practices in federal cybersecurity deals. This has to do with product bundling. Does it make sense for the government customers to have to buy stuff that they're not actually going to use?
But more importantly, they do use that stuff. And the reason they use it is probably because for a long time it was free as part of the government bundle. And then it wasn't. And then it was subscription based. And so now the government has massive subscription costs per seat. Yeah.
Seems like the same thing that drug dealers do, doesn't it?
Well, it seems like the same thing that Microsoft and large tech companies have been doing to consumers lately.
Yeah.
Maybe smart to keep it to the consumers and not do it to the government that can regulate you. Maybe they're totally confident that this all goes away.
It's on the up and up. Oh, yeah.
And the SEC, we talk about them a lot, and we see a lot of big numbers, especially, remember the crypto fining frenzy?
Well, this article leaves that out mostly. Like it talks about the cryptocurrency only when it's like really egregious, but they left out FTX. There was no mention of FTX.
Well, I think they did get that money, though, right?
Well, yeah. They took because it was solvent.
They fine lots and lots of individuals, and we see this with the other government agencies where it's like, yes, we've indicted this Russian who's never going to come to America, never going to leave Russia. We're never going to find them. This is just a headline. How much does that happen?
The SEC has written off $10 billion in fines that it can't collect. And this article goes into a lot of detail about some of them going back more than a decade, including there's a 74-year-old in St. Kitts and Nevis. And he's just like, I don't have any money. And he's like, well, you basically own an island here. And he's like, I don't have any money. Go away.
He was quoted as saying, I will starve before I give you a cent.
I mean, like, if you look at FTX, and I'm really unhappy that this article didn't, because FTX is amazing. Because FTX absolutely was probably a Ponzi scheme. Like, I think it was a Ponzi scheme. But at the same time, as Ponzi scheme as it was, they were solvent. They actually, and it might just be because Bitcoin went to the moon. If Bitcoin had not gone to the moon, then everybody would have been left holding the bag. But not just the crypto investments. Other stuff they invested in actually paid off. And because the other stuff they actually invested in paid off, they made money. And the people that had their stuff locked up, like their crypto that was locked up in FTX, they got back the value that they had locked up in FTX without the gains. So
here's the question. If they had not been caught and they stayed leveraged like they were, which was insane, and Bitcoin did go back up, would they have quietly survived, or would their insanity have just kept pushing?
Yeah, I don't know. Would they have gone legit? It's crazy though how the history of businesses in America that are insane like that, and then they go legit at the end.
Amazon?
Well, I have like there was a. I think Amazon is about to have a reckoning because of the counterfeit product thing. Like I think that's going to be. They're going to look at it and it's going to be like, oh my gosh, all of this stuff on Amazon is not real products, and you've been harming entrepreneurs that are in the supply chain here, and it's going to be real bad for Amazon. But yes, Amazon is a good example.
Well, I know that you are particularly incensed about the Amazon cables.
Oh my gosh.
And the world is in fact having a cable problem.
How does Amazon Basics count? Amazon Basics cables are sometimes counterfeit. Like, how do you screw up that bad? Your own brand cables are fakes.
Well, that's not where my lead-in was going.
Oh, sorry.
I knew that might trigger you a little bit. I took the risk. But the cables I'm talking about are the ones on the ocean floor connecting us to our neighbors across the seas. And they have been getting cut left and right. What can we do about it?
Tom's Hardware says that NATO plans to build satellite links as backups to undersea cables. The recent cable damage incidents shine spotlight on Project HEIST. Yeah, why didn't we do this 10 or 15 years ago, 20 years ago?
Because it cost a lot of money to get those satellites up there.
It doesn't now.
No.
Thanks to Elmo.
No, you can just pop them right up there. So, yeah, they're saying that we realize that satellite communication is much slower than the cables, which is why we need a ton of satellites.
You just rent space on Starlink like everybody else does.
And the high orbit, yeah, maybe we're going to put more birds. But up here in the residential skies, maybe a lot less birds coming soon.
Reuters has the headline, U.S. considers potential rules to restrict or bar Chinese drones. You dig into this, though, and I think Reuters is incorrect. It's not Chinese drones, it's all drones. And this is unfortunate because...
Well, but they point out that all drones and Chinese drones is basically the same circle. It's like there's a tiny, tiny overlap, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that potential rules restricting Chinese drones is going to cause homegrown drones. Like, a lot of the rules that they want would affect homegrown companies as well. And some of the stuff that China's been able to do with drones, even just like their fireworks shows, are innovative. It feels really bad. It's like, oh, let's do a drone show, and then we accidentally like really injured that 7-year-old kid. We had that story last week. That's disappointing.
But we do a lot of entertainment-based stuff that can seriously harm people. Like, that's not unique.
Well, China does too. China's got the like crazy dragon thing they did for the New Year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
it was insane. I don't think anybody died, or they control the media to the point that there was no reports of anybody dying.
But it sounds like you're saying that what the government actually wants is a monopoly on drones.
Yeah, there we go.
Ooh, where have we seen that before?
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
And here's a man who we've not heard from in a while, and God, the world needed to hear his wisdom once again. So,
where's his Reese cup?
Gizmodo put him back out.
Trump's former FCC head, Ajit Pai, asked the Supreme Court to go ahead and uphold the TikTok ban. Like, just go ahead and let's get this new presidency off to a bang and just go ahead and ban TikTok. It's fine.
Man, it is not possible for him to take a picture where you just don't want to attack him.
He's also, and they know that he's sort of breaking ranks with Trump here too, which is, he's an old Trump appointee.
Except the door has revolved. He's no longer in government. He's now working for a venture capital firm that is, guess what? Working with telecoms, buying up telecoms in fire sales. So,
you think there's a Comcast executive somewhere that's thinking we can have the Comcast Talk app, ComTalk? Yes. I can build it, and it will replace the vacuum of TikTok, and I will make millions of dollars.
I'd say they're all talking about it.
We have all the media. Why we can make all the Friends memes.
It could be that television executives are just morons. Like, that's totally possible because they make some really dumb decisions. But if they're not total morons, they have to see the end of that road coming, right? The bridge is out in like 2030. At the most.
You say that, but then we've covered the stories like AT&T buying the satellite communications company that we mocked mercilessly.
But it burned them hard.
Yeah.
So you're just saying they're dumb. Right?
Yeah. I mean, good Lord.
And another payment app, another financial app that the government does not like.
U.S. files a complaint against fintech app Dave and its CEO. And then you dig into this, and it's like, it took you this long? What? So Dave was an app that would promise, like, hey, you can get a $500 payday loan. Just let us look at all your stuff. And it seems like it was just malware. And you were not going to get a payday loan.
No, you got a loan, And actually, I think it was a zero interest loan. But they did the same thing that I can't remember the name of that other company that did it. It was one of those like buy now, pay later type deals, zero interest, but the fees, just a ocean of fees that were not disclosed because you don't have to, I guess, these days. Well, I mean, maybe you should because the government will come after you. But.
Well, their complaint said that a lot of the time people wouldn't even get. It was like, oh, this is guaranteed, and they wouldn't get the loan, but they would still get the fees.
Yeah, they were definitely breaking some rules there. It's a bad idea. Don't fall for that. And here's a fun one because some of you are probably too young to remember Y2K, but we lived through it. Turned out not to be that big a deal. However, we still have some systems out there that are very old that have these kinds of problems.
Our own little Y2K, LA County Sheriff's computer dispatch system is still down. So this is 911. Their 911 dispatch system apparently had a January 1, 2024 bug. There was a surprising amount of chatter across the computer janitor sphere about like people had set expirations of just January 1, 2024 on like accounts and SSL certificates and stuff. And it's just like, what? Why?
It is easy to project forward in time and be like, I don't have to worry about that. That's so far away. The world will be totally different by then. But here we are.
That's past the end of the Mayan calendar. There's no possible way I could have to worry about this.
But we do have to worry. We have to worry about a lot of things. And sometimes we have to worry about what we're putting in our bodies and maybe what the kids are putting in their bodies. Belgium has taken a stand.
Belgium becomes the first EU country to ban the sale of disposable vapes. We had some bans on this kind of stuff go into effect here too.
I don't support substance banning because it doesn't work, obviously. We've been doing it for a long time. But the whole idea of throwing away all those lithium batteries.
Yeah.
That just seems crazy to me. And then the toothbrushes?
Yeah.
Wow, it's a really valuable substance.
Yeah. And we're not going to get more of it. Imagine something as valuable as oil, but way less of it.
And we just found out that Ukraine has cut off the gas flow to Europe. Where are they going to get all their oil and energy from? Well, it turns out that there's a little bit of evasion happening.
Russia's shadow fleet is built to evade sanctions, but has it added sabotage to the list? And the answer is yes, it has. This article talks about the Finnish. As soon as the cable was cut, they intercepted the ship by helicopter, which the ship apparently was not expecting. They didn't permit it to leave, and they found some stuff on board that they want to. And this article doesn't talk about the NATO thing, but Finland's like, we think we should invoke one of the NATO articles. But the article does talk about how this ship did not have oil tanker insurance, but it was an oil tanker, and so it was set up to look like it was skirting oil tanker embargoes, but was actually running missions to disrupt internet communication, apparently, because if it wasn't meant to haul oil, what the heck is it doing?
Well, also Russian, they put in the headline, it is not a Russian flagged vessel. It is from the Cook Islands, which I don't think they're oil producers, are they?
No.
So
they're somewhat lackadaisical with their paperwork, apparently.
They point out that the Shadow Fleet, their accusations are that the Shadow Fleet has gotten massively huge to the point now that it is eclipsing legitimate oil tankers coming out of Russia. And so we have a lot of ships out there that are fudging their paperwork and possibly destroying cables along the way.
I thought it was interesting that this literally was a ship that was designed to haul oil, but it doesn't have oil hauling insurance. Didn't apparently have oil on it or much, and also destroyed a cable.
A lot of questions.
Yeah.
Now, India took a hard line this past year on the internet. They cracked down. And one of the things that they wanted to do is they wanted to usurp a lot of the delivery and payment apps and stuff like that to get the Western companies who were firmly entrenched and replace them with Indian companies. It's not going well.
India, again, delays rules to break PhonePe. Is that how you say that, PhonePe?
I don't know.
And Google Pay duopoly. So you got to use one of these two companies to process payments. It's like the Visa MasterCard problem we have here in America, except Visa and MasterCard are the same company, and we've never fixed it.
PhonePe is Walmart.
Oh, okay. Oh, was this we did a story on this where it was like Walmart partnered with a local Indian company. So it's like partly.
I think that was the delivery one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Walmart heavy in India right now. And they want them out. At least some people do. But it seems like going up against something as powerful as Walmart is very difficult once it's already entrenched. And India, as we said, cracking down. They are not fans of the flow of information going where they cannot control it.
Cloudflare's VPN app among a half a dozen pulled from Indian app stores. It's like, no, we must control the flow of your bits. This is worrying because the Western world is going to adopt the same kind of stuff.
They're dying to.
We'll have more about that in the business section because Florida just fell off the internet. Oh, yeah, this goes with that too.
Yeah, and how difficult is it to communicate in India when they don't want you to?
A Canadian ultra runner was arrested in India for carrying a Garmin inReach. This is basically an emergency use SMS device that works via satellite. So, like, if you get trapped in the Himalayas, you can hit a button and they'll come rescue you. And apparently that's not okay in India. And she was arrested. The fine was $11, but she had to pay like $2,000 or $3,000 for lawyers, and they were threatening to jail her. And she was just like, "No, this is a misunderstanding." And she just was incredulous, and so they put her in jail until she got a lawyer.
Maybe she'll keep her running at home.
And the whole rule is like you can't have a communication device that is non-sanctioned communication, which is nuts. IMHO.
Well, China, they are having some economic problems, as is the world, and they have to see the threat of tariffs coming up. Now, can we actually do that? Is that actually going to happen? No one knows, but they're taking precaution.
China's going to subsidize smartphone purchases in bid to lift spending. The dystopian American version of this story would be that distressed and low-income people will be given government phones that keep an eye on everything that they do and forces all of their transactions to run through it.
So that's 40. Oh, no, wait, that's the wrong thing. Was it like $60 off an iPhone or something like that? They also have a trade-in program to try, because after some recent events, the Chinese lost a lot of trust in the system and money, and they began to hoard their money and not spend and not, be frivolous, which is very bad for your GDP. And so they want, so like, hey, bring in whatever old device you have and trade it in, and we're going to give you a big discount on a new one.
Also, we got a story about iPhone doing super discounts, so that's going to be in the business section because iPhones aren't selling well in China either.
No, that's the story.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or is it?
I don't think so.
Oh, I might be confusing them.
Apple is also doing discounts on top of this to bring the price even lower.
And Russian media, after the events in Ukraine, a lot of places started kicking out the various Russian channels. And now one more.
Russia vows retaliation to censorship as Telegram blocks propaganda outlets. This is from the Kansas City Star, but Telegram doesn't have an amazing history in this regard, and so I'm left confused.
Well, they're not applying the rules across the board here, right? There's a lot of propaganda coming out of a lot of places. Every country has propaganda, and they're picking winners and losers for sure. And here's a terrifying one, because you know how China is all up in our telecom network? Well, we're told that no, that's out. They're out now. We couldn't find them for 3 or 4 years, but now they're out, so everything's going to be okay. It turns out maybe they just moved to a new location.
Reuters headline is that U.S. Treasury says Chinese hackers stole documents in a major incident. This was actually a third-party security vendor that I've heard of before. I'm drawing a blank on it.
It was like...
Beyond Trust.
There you go.
Yeah, I was very surprised. Beyond Trust. So the government here is saying the government is very bad at doing its own security and keeping its IT up to date. And basically, when you're on paid time off, your government employees just do not care, most of them. And so we're going to trust our IT and monitoring stuff to an outside company, government contracting. It's going to be great. In this case, China said, okay, or the Chinese hackers said, okay, we're going to target Beyond Trust and steal the keys from Beyond Trust, specifically targeting. And so they did, and they were successful.
We don't know exactly what they got, but stuff at the Treasury might be pretty sensitive. And we have the resolution of a case that we've been following for some time about AT&T and Verizon links. They think they found their man.
The Krebs on Security blog post has U.S. Army soldier arrested in AT&T and Verizon extortions. This is the one we covered. This was like, January, February? It was like a year ago. we covered this. Kyber Phantom, if you remember. He was extorting people and messing with their accounts and selling info and blah, blah, blah.
He was stationed in Korea.
Yeah. The communications officer or whatever. It's like, oh, we think because. And it was like, this was clues from a couple pictures.
So I can't remember the name of. There was some kind of security auditor who's somewhat famous as well, and was talking about these guys and talking about the details of the story, not who they were, just like, here's what I've been sleuthing around and finding out. So they started a campaign against her, and she was like, oh no, you won't, and immediately doxed them and figured out who they were.
Neat.
Oh no.
Oh, it's broken. I hate when there's like just multiple layers of insanity. There we go.
Oh, but it kicks you.
This one's the Boeing article.
It's back to the homepage. I can't give you anything.
So there was a story running around this week. There is a whistleblower that has been whistleblowing on Boeing for a long time. And so there's a couple of news stories about how when they investigated, there's a lot of whistleblowers that have basically just been ignored by both the FAA and Boeing. And a lot of the time, these things are handled so sloppily that the person doing the whistleblowing will face some kind of retaliation because it'll ultimately make its way back to Boeing or executives that work with Boeing because the oversight people work so closely with the people in the industry. And this guy was like, this is a huge problem. And so he pointed specifically at like fuselages that had defects that were being stored during the global pandemic. And it's like, hey, these are in storage. You should just go inspect these right now. It'd be the easiest thing in the world. And they did, but they didn't really find anything wrong. And then some of those fuselages were the ones where like the plugs blew out. Remember those?
But more damning is that this guy felt so strongly about his position, he left. He worked for Spirit,
Yeah.
who was, like working for Boeing. So he was still Boeing.
Not Spirit Airlines, but like Spirit Manufacturing.
Right, yeah. I don't think they're related, right?
Yeah, I don't think so.
And he was like, hey, this is going to kill people, and I'm leaving. I don't want to be a part of this because I see something terrible happening here. He left the state, moved his family, started working for another manufacturing company that was also in aviation. And he said one of his like supervisors pulled him aside one day, and they were like, we're getting calls from Spirit. And they say that you're basically a rat, and we should watch out for you. So there was a lot of retaliatory stuff, and that was exactly the kind of thing that the FAA was like, we can't find any evidence of that.
Yeah. Was it a Spirit or this new company that they called him kind of obstructionist? Like there was some paperwork where they actually put down, it's like, oh, he always finds something wrong. And he's like, I'm a quality control engineer. That's my job.
I think that was early on
in
his days of actually trying to say something. That guy would be a great candidate for the Raise Your Hand Award.
Yeah.
Raise your hand and get punished for it. And here's an interesting one from NPR, who buries the lead horrifically and doesn't even get to the meat of the problem here until the last paragraph. It seems like they were trying to leave it out.
Transit systems turn to AI-powered cameras to catch drivers who block bus lanes. Let's just rewrite that at all. The transit system has equipped cameras with AI to categorize literally everything that it sees, including people, license plate, faces, cars, whatever.
And resulted in overwhelming false positives. One guy got 11 parking tickets, all of which were false positives. And he talked about how he tried to contact them, got nothing back. Tried to fight it in court, and the court was like, no, they said you did it. You did it. And he was like, but the picture. Look at the picture. And he only got relief, and this is something we see over and over, when he went to some sort of news establishment and got a story published about it.
Yeah.
And then he immediately got apology letters. 11 apology letters.
But that was definitely worth the thousands upon thousands of dollars of his time that displaced. Like that is.
But the quotes from the industry people here are like, oh, it's working great. We see it changing the behavior of people blocking bus lanes, and that's exactly what we want.
This is what causes people to get really insanely frustrated and take matters into their own hands in ways that they probably shouldn't.
Or should they?
You talked about baiting me earlier.
And another supply chain. This is just an every week thing now.
Cisco confirms the authenticity of data after a second leak. This was amazing because we reported on this. And Cisco had the arrogance to say, this is not us. This might be a third-party vendor, but it's not us. It turns out it was them. Which is, I laugh at the schadenfreude of it, but it's also really bad because like Cisco are supposed to be the smart guys in the room, you know, that are like far ahead and on the bleeding edge of technology. And like you buy Cisco because you need something that's not, you know, you're not screwing around, when the reality of like good security is like that guy at Microsoft that was running micro benchmarks on XZ shell and it's like, oh, I noticed it's a little slower. You need a whole organization made up of that guy.
Cisco initially said it had no evidence that the sensitive personal information or financial data was compromised. It has since removed this statement from the incident report.
Yeah,
there was some evidence. Know that at all. They had no evidence that it was or wasn't. They just defaulted to that. And here are the feel-good stories, so we don't have to worry anymore.
Yes, Telco Lumen says its network is clear of China's Salt Typhoon attackers. So the SS7 thing. Oh, and minor correction, there were a lot of you that wrote in and said, no, the SS7 thing was about number portability for 800 numbers. Yes, that was true in the beginning, but if you can use that system to forward and record voice calls, like if the apparatus and machinery that you could use an SS7, good Lord, that's loud. You could forward the SS7 functionality number to another place, record the call, and then forward it to where it's supposed to go. That's a spy apparatus.
And I accidentally flashed this one.
Oh, AT&T says its network is now clear after Salt Typhoon attack.
Verizon, I think, as well.
Yeah, well, T-Mobile said that, but then they were back. And then, so I don't think T-Mobile said it a second time. That was the other one I was looking for this week.
I think I've left one out here by accident.
But again, this is fundamentally, like these are fundamentally broken systems. You should not trust, nothing has changed. You need an end-to-end encryption application on your phone that's not awful. Signal seems to be the least awful one. Just use Signal. And I'm not sure, I really am not sure what else to recommend. That might be, you can start a thread at the Level 1 forum.
Just don't communicate with anybody.
Yeah.
Ever.
Oh yeah, public domain day. Do we want to do that? What is that?
That's tomorrow.
Oh, right.
Preview.
Yeah, so I guess that's it for this. We're gonna start with public domain day tomorrow. So you should tune in for that, and it'll be good. And I'm gonna try to say bye, but I can't talk, so it's fun. Bye.